I'm going now. Bye.
Listen,
We really need to...
Well, now on ITV1, we're joining Alistair Stewart for a news flash.
You're watching ITV1. We're breaking into tonight's programmes for a statement by the Prime Minister. This statement is believed to regard the rising tensions between the UK and China. We're going to cross over to Downing Street now for the statement.
Good evening. I have spent the last 24 hours in talks with the Chinese government, and unfortunately we were unable to come to an agreement. Therefore, we are now at war with China and their allies, Russia, Brazil and India. I am in talks with NATO and the UN for allies in the war. I am pleased to announce that the United States have offered support along with France, Kuwait, Ireland and Germany. British and American troops have been deployed on the Russian and Chinese borders. More information will be released in due course. Thank you.
That was the Prime Minister Gordon Brown there. To summarise, the UK is now at war with the BRIC nations following failed peace talks with the Chinese government. The US, with President Barack Obama, have also pledged support to Britain, along with France, Germany, Ireland and Kuwait. Troops are on the borders of China and Russia. We'll have more updates on the news at 10.
Following that announcement by the Prime Minister, tonight's news at 10 has been extended to 11 p.m. Now, though, we're returning to Coronation Street.
Right, come on, John Boy, and no excuses this time.
Right. Now.
Therefore, we are now at war with China and their allies, Russia, Brazil and India. I am in talks with NATO and the UN for allies in the war.
Britain and the US go to war with the BRIC nations in what could be the Third World War. We ask, is this the next Iraq? Also tonight, US and UK troops surround the borders of China and Russia. Neither country has acted yet. David Cameron calls on Brown to resign following failed and destructive peace talks. And we look back at Britain's previous war efforts and see if the public in 2010 are ready for global conflict.
This is the ITV News with Alistair Stewart.
This is BBC One. Following an escalation in the conflict between the UK and the BRICS nations, unfortunately, we must announce that Russia has carried out shelling against the country. Areas hit in England are Bristol, Birmingham, Dover, London, Liverpool and Manchester. Areas hit in Scotland are Edinburgh, Glasgow, Kirk and Rosyth. Areas hit in Wales are Cardiff, Swansea, Merthyr Tydfil and Aberystwyth. Areas hit in Northern Ireland are Belfast, Omagh and Londonderry. Disaster recovery efforts are underway. Gordon Brown, Prime Minister and Commander-in-Chief, has been moved to a safe location. This is truly a tragic and frightening time for all, so we encourage you to stay together and show the enemy you are not afraid. BBC 1 and 2 will remain on the air with news and alerts. BBC 3 is suspended until further notice to allow our staff to get news out and also check on their friends and family. Right here, here's some music.
You're watching Sky One. Following the attacks on the country by Russia, Sky B would like to reiterate their commitment to broadcasting consistently and keeping the public informed of any developments in the war. We would also like to urge the public to support each other during the crisis. Reach out to elderly neighbours or relatives, take up work as a voluntary firefighter, volunteer at a food bank, or just ring a friend. Benefit the community in some way. We're stronger together than apart. Now, it's one particular yellow fella, The Simpsons on Sky One.
Hello, United Kingdom. We're Ocean Spray growers here at our cranberry harvest.
We love your tradition of taking tea.
You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the
BBC One. We're joining the rest of the BBC for an emergency broadcast. Please stay tuned to this channel. This is BBC Television from the Northwest. We regret to inform you that the BRIC powers have used nuclear weapons on the country. A nuclear detonation was recorded in London about 20 minutes ago. Estimates suggest upwards of 1 million people are dead or injured. The impact was felt from as far away from the epicenter as Milton Keynes, where a train to Waterloo derailed and fell off a bridge. If you live within 20 miles of London,
It's being treated as a war crime. Gordon Brown is talking to NATO regarding possible retaliation. We would like to spend the next minute
And we're getting reports that a second missile has been launched by China. The trajectory remains unknown. All we know is that the southeast is burning and London has fallen. We'll keep you updated on the trajectory of the second missile as soon as possible. You're watching Sky News on the Sky News channel, Sky 1, Sky 2, Sky 3 and Sky Sports News.
This is BBC One in crisis broadcasting mode on the 15th of February 2011. Now, an important announcement by the new Prime Minister, David Cameron.
Good morning. I speak to you today with promising news from the British Army. In the last 24 hours, our brave soldiers have overwhelmed the sinister governments of China and India. India surrendered at roughly 2 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, and China fell at roughly 4 o'clock. The British Army have now eradicated the Chinese threat, with the government overthrown and a large region of the country in British control. The threat of Iran, which emerged in the last few months, was quashed by our allies in the Middle East, those being Kuwait and Iraq. The United States now have control of Brazil after their failed assault on Mexico. A few hours ago, our representatives signed an armistice with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has agreed to withdraw troops from Eastern Europe. The outgoing Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, remains in custody following his government's barbaric actions in regards to the murder of civilians. As per the orders of NATO and the United Nations, Britain, China, and Russia will all pay reparations to the other countries involved for their part in starting the war. In the next few hours, myself, the new Secretary of State William Hague, and President Obama will fly out to the annexed British Beijing to speak with military officials and also assess the situation. The end of the war brings to an end 10 months of pure bloodshed, purely over the comment made by one singular MP. As Prime Minister, my first aims will be to rebuild London and Manchester, stabilise our crippled economy, and develop the British territory in China. This is a day for jubilation and celebration, but also a day for mourning. This is a day of justice, and the 15th of February will be a public holiday from this day on. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to BBC One. The armistice has been signed and peace can now return to the world. For all the reactions to the end of the war, we now join Clive Myrie for a BBC News special.
Obama and Cameron are both on their way to British Beijing to meet with army generals. Well, on the phone now is our America correspondent Chris Colwell, who's live in Manhattan. Chris, what's the reaction like there?
Good morning, Clive. Yeah, the reaction here has been really good. People are celebrating in the streets nearby. Some people are relieved, obviously, and some others are still furious at the government for getting involved. So, yeah, it's quite mixed, really.
Thanks, Chris. And we're going to cut away from Washington now to cross over to British Beijing, where the planes of David Cameron and Barack Obama are now landing. They'll be meeting with army generals in the region this morning to discuss their next steps now that the war is over. We're expecting President Obama to address the world at 8 o'clock from British Beijing. And reportedly German Chancellor Angela Merkel is on her way to China now to meet with the other leaders. And before we continue, we welcome back viewers from BBC One, which has now restarted broadcasts. We'll be back to China at 8 for Obama's address, but for now, a special report on the war that never should have happened.